Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Why don't you fill our audience in a little bit on your mission before we get to the show's topic?
All right. Well, our mission is, as was covered in that little introduction, our mission is to really establish an avenue for complete foods. It comes under a lot of titles now. You hear the word functional foods. In fact, that's a category now in Whole Foods. They have a specific category called functional foods. Whole foods, superfoods. You hear a lot of, kind of different markers for that arena of supplement. What we're really after is trying to go to different regions of the world and find functional foods that serve a purpose, not just for nutrition, not just for survival, but as you're consuming them for nutrition, can actually remedy problems that you have in your metabolic processes. So what we want to do, our key is to try to bring those foods in the exact form that they exist in the culture of origin. So we're trying to, a lot of companies do things, they find something that's great in another land, and then they start looking, okay, what do we do to make it easier to ship? How do we cut down the weight? How do we get past the FDA, in a, cheaper way? So that leads to kind of like a degradation of the food itself. So our main goal is to find these super functional foods and bring them as close as possible to this country in the origin that they exist in the culture where they're consumed.
Very nice. So today we're talking about the benefits of black rice. And so I wanted to start by asking you, what is sprouted black rice and why does it need to be sprouted?
Okay, the main reason is, for example, where we first encountered this super functional food was in the mountainous regions of northern India. It's called the black rice state. It could be northern India, northern Thailand, northern Burma. All our rice happens to come from Thailand. But when you go to these regions, they don't eat anything that's classified as a seed. We have a lot of cute names for things that are seeds. We call them legumes or nuts or rice kernels. These are all seeds. Seeds are heavy with a component called phytic acid. Phytic acid is provided by nature. What it does is it keeps a seed from breaking down. So if every time a seed hit the ground from a plant, if there was no phytic acid, the seed would lay on the top of the ground. It would sprout without any, supportive soil or moisture, and the seed would just die laying on the surface of the ground. And all plant life would die, basically. So nature provided phytic acid within the seed. Phytic acid is an enzyme inhibitor. So the presence of phytic acid keeps a seed from sprouting to life. Now, phytic acid is neutralized by lack of light, so darkness, and moisture. So the seed can fall from a tree, lay on the top of ground, not sprout. Over time, dust, wind, animals makes the seed get buried in the soil. So it's not exposed to light. Then when it gets moist, that phytic acid is neutralized and that seed comes to life and grows a plant. It works great for seeds. It's horrible for humans. So that same phytic acid that inhibits enzyme release in a seed also inhibits enzyme release and activation in the human body. So it actually prevents digestion of the very foods that we're eating. So sprouting is a way of neutralizing that phytic acid so that all the enzymes become active, do what they're supposed to do, break down the food, and now this food is bioavailable for our body just because phytic acid is neutralized. So that's why we sprout it, so that it can be a raw food, but it's yet available for the human body to consume.
Wow, that's fascinating. I've never heard of this, and that's amazing, and it's natural.
Because there's a lot of things products out there that are called sprouted products, and all they're doing is soaking them in water. And because there's no real FDA standard for sprouting yet, so they soak stuff in water and, put it in a package and call it sprouted. Well, if you don't see a sprout on it, it's not a sprout. Because phytic acid isn't neutralized till there's a sprout on the seed. That's when that life force, when that sprout breaks free from that seed, that's when phytic acid is neutralized. And this is a big concern now because it's not just like the hip thing to do, because, diverticulitis, I don't know if you're familiar with that. This is a serious condition. So people that have diverticulitis can eat sprouted seeds, but they can't eat non-sprouted seeds. So you go and somebody that has a serious condition, or maybe their kid has diverticulitis and they've been told to go out and look for sprouted foods. They're going out and look at a bag of sprouted seeds and they're trusting that it's sprouted. Well, there's no standard for that yet. That just might be a seed soaked in water. So it's really a key issue for us.
Wow. How is this eaten traditionally?
Traditionally, the first time I had it was in northern India. Like, it's northern. I don't even think they call it India. Like, you say I'm in India, they look at you, they don't know. We're just mountain people. But I saw the symbol. I don't know how to translate the symbols, but I saw the symbols everywhere. It's all the characters. Everything's labeled by characters. And I saw this character everywhere. And I started recognizing it because it was so many places. So I was doing another job for another company, scouting a source up there. And I saw on the menu there was no pictures, there was no English. I was trying to order some food. I was really hungry, tired, and I saw that same symbol. So I just ordered just based on the symbol. It came in an opaque plate. It had candles under the plate, so it was glowing up through the plate, and it was just the black rice with all the bran intact, which we'll get to later. None of the bran is removed, and it was sprouted, but it was roasted. So they take every seed they eat. In fact, I ate sprouted coffee fruit up there. Everything they eat is sprouted in this village, which was traditional. That's how, until we needed to ship things like really far and make money off things, everything was eaten sprouted. Seeds were stored for planting and sprouts were eaten. So I started eating that. It was just amazing. I was lit up. Energy, and I could feel that. Sounds like an exaggeration, but I could feel it digesting as it hit my stomach. Like, how stuff sits?
Yep.
It's gone.
Yeah.
It goes down and it's gone. It's just dispersed. So they like to roast it. You'll see out on the farms, like where they sprout, like if you go into where they're sprouting in the village, they'll be eating it raw.
Oh my gosh.
Fresh sprouts, just like taking it as they're working, just putting it in their mouth and eating it. But if you go into a restaurant, they like to roast it. It adds a little flavor and, a little crunch, and people like crunch,
right.
So.
And just to make it different.
Right. So, but it's always eaten sprouted, but it's sometimes raw, sometimes roasted, depending on where you are.
So how is this different from the black rice you find in grocery stores and than the ones that we cook?
The biggest difference is the rice that is sold as a food, it's got an FDA classification as cargo rice. Cargo rice by the FDA classification needs to have a 3-year minimum shelf life because it has to be harvested, bagged, shipped, go through distribution, get on the shelf. So they need it to be able to last that long. The black rice in its true pure form is so rich in essential fatty acids and different types of oils. It's really suspect to rancidity. So it will go rancid really fast. So the FDA won't allow whole black rice to be shipped in cargo rice form to this country because they're afraid it'll go rancid. So in order to ship black rice and sell it in the United States, a minimum of 95% of the bran has to be milled off the rice kernel. And the bran is where all the, good stuff is. Yeah. Inside, rice is all white on the inside. It's all just starch, which is, by the way, until rice is harvested, it's liquid. That starch, it's liquid starch. Until you break the life cycle of rice, that's when the starch hardens and becomes a kernel. So all rice is white on the inside. The different color of rice is nature's idea of how to keep this seed alive and protected through its life cycle. So not only do they mill 95% of the bran off, they're still a little worried about rancidity, because when they were doing 95% milling and they were bringing it into the country and putting it on the shelves and it was in bags, they were seeing the bags swell. Because it was still, even with 95, it's so rich in oils, which is the good thing. It's so rich in oils that they were seeing the bags swell from the rancidity. So they also started demanding some type of treatment, whether it be a heat treatment or some type of treatment to the rice, in addition to milling all the bran off. So when you buy black rice for food, even though it's better than eating white rice, it's a fraction of how the food really exists in its true form.
Wow. Oh, this is interesting. We have to take a quick break, so stay with us right
Absolutely.
now. Yeah, don't go anywhere. We will be right back more with Michael.